The sun was setting over the dry hills when Deho stopped his truck. He had been driving for 3 hours, checking the old water pipes that ran through this empty land. The company sent him here every month to make sure everything worked properly. It was boring work, but someone had to do it. He stepped out of the truck and stretched his arms. The air was cool now. In a few hours it would be cold. This part of New Haven was always like this, hot during the day, freezing at night. He grabbed his toolbox and started walking toward the next pipe marker. That was when he heard it, a sound faint and distant, almost like the wind, but not quite. Deho stopped walking. He listened carefully. There it was again. It sounded like crying, like someone calling out. His heart started beating faster. There shouldn't be anyone out here. This area was abandoned years ago when the mining company left. He followed the sound. His boots crunched on the dry ground as he walked past old equipment and rusted metal frames. The crying got louder. It was definitely someone calling for help. The voice sounded strange, not quite human, but full of pain and fear. Then he saw it. An old well. The kind miners used decades ago to reach underground water. A wooden cover had rotted away, leaving a dark hole in the ground. The sound was coming from down there. Deho rushed to the edge and looked down. It was dark inside, very dark. He couldn't see the bottom. The well was deep, maybe 40 meters or more. "Hello?" he shouted into the darkness. "Is someone down there?" The crying stopped. For a moment there was silence. Then a voice answered. It spoke in human language, but the accent was thick and strange. "Help. Please help me." Deho's eyes went wide. The voice wasn't human. He recognized that accent. It was Veltari, one of the insect-like aliens who lived on New Haven alongside humans. They were peaceful, mostly keeping to themselves, working as traders and diplomats. "I'm here," Deho shouted. "Are you hurt?" "Yes. My leg is broken. I cannot climb. Please, help me." Deho ran back to his truck. His mind was racing. He grabbed his flashlight and shined it down the well. Now he could see her, a Veltari woman lying at the bottom. Her carapace was pale blue, covered in dirt and scratches. One of her legs was bent at a wrong angle. She looked up at him with large, dark eyes that reflected the flashlight beam. "How long have you been down there?" Deho asked. 3 days, she said weakly. "Maybe 4. I lost count. 3 days. Deho felt sick. 3 days without food or water in that dark hole. How was she even alive? "What happened?" he asked. "Bandits," she said. "They took my transport. They pushed me in here, left me to die." Deho clenched his fists. Bandits were a problem in the frontier regions. Most were humans, unfortunately. People who came to the colonies to escape the law. They robbed travelers and disappeared into the empty lands. "Okay, listen to me," Deho said, trying to sound calm. "I'm going to get you out. Just hold on." He ran back to his truck again. He had rope in the back, maybe 30 meters of it, and a winch attached to the front of the truck. He could use them to pull her up. Or maybe he could lower himself down. Deho worked quickly. He tied one end of the rope to the winch and tested it. Strong. He threw the other end down the well. It wasn't long enough. The rope hung in the air, maybe 10 meters short of the bottom. "Can you reach it?" he called down. "No," Lena said. "It is too far." Deho cursed under his breath. He looked around. There had to be another way. He could drive to the nearest town and get help. That would take 6 hours, maybe more. By then it would be night. And Lena had already been down there for 3 days. She might not survive another 6 hours. His phone had no signal out here. The hills blocked everything. He couldn't call anyone. There was only one option. He had to go down there. Deho knew it was crazy. If he went down, he might not be able to get back up. The well walls looked smooth, worn down by years of water and wind. There were no handholds, no ladder. If he jumped down, he would be trapped too. But Lena was dying down there. She needed help now, not in 6 hours. Deho made his decision. He grabbed his emergency pack from the truck. Inside was water, a first aid kit, a thermal blanket, and some protein bars. He also took a hammer, a metal spike, and 50 meters of thin climbing rope from his toolbox. It wasn't much, but it would have to do. He tied the climbing rope around his waist and secured the other end to his truck's frame. Then he wrapped the rope around his legs and arms, preparing to rappel down. He had done some climbing in training years ago. He hoped he still remembered how. "I'm coming down," he shouted into the well. "No," Lena's voice was panicked. You will be trapped too. Go get help. There's no time, Deho said. We'll figure out how to get up later. Right now you need water and medicine. This is insane, Lena said. Why would you do this for me? You don't even know me. Deho paused. That was a good question. Why was he doing this? Any sane person would drive for help. But something in him couldn't leave her down there. Couldn't walk away knowing she was suffering. Because you need help, he said simply. That's enough. He didn't give himself time to think about it anymore. He lowered himself over the edge. The rope burned against his hands as he slid down. The walls of the well rushed past him. It was darker than he expected. Colder, too. The smell of damp earth and old stone filled his nose. His feet hit the bottom hard. He stumbled but didn't fall. The rope went slack above him. He had made it. Deho pulled out his flashlight and looked around. The bottom of the well was maybe 3 meters wide. Water pooled in one corner just a little bit. Lena was lying against the wall, watching him with those huge dark eyes. She looked terrible. Her carapace was cracked in several places. One of her forearms hung limp at her side. You actually came down, she whispered. You jumped into a hole for me. Yeah, Deho said, already moving toward her. Probably the dumbest thing I've ever done. He opened his emergency pack and pulled out the water bottle. Here, drink slowly. Lena took the bottle with a shaking hand. She drank, and Deho could see tears forming in her eyes. Not human tears, but something similar, a clear fluid that ran down her cheeks. Thank you, she said. I thought I would die here. My people, they don't do this. We don't risk ourselves for strangers. I don't understand why you would. Deho shrugged. I'm human. We do stupid things when someone needs help. He looked up at the circle of sky far above them. The rope hung down, swaying slightly. They were trapped now. Both of them. 40 meters underground with no easy way out. Well, Deho said, trying to smile. I guess we'd better become friends fast. We're going to be here for a while. Lena stared at him for a long moment. Then, despite everything, she laughed. It was a strange sound, clicking and musical at the same time. But it was genuine. You are very strange, human, she said. Yeah, Deho agreed. I get that a lot. Deho sat down next to Lena and opened his first aid kit. The flashlight cast long shadows on the curved walls around them. It was quiet down here, except for their breathing and the occasional drip of water from somewhere above. Let me look at your leg, he said. Lena nodded and shifted slightly. She winced with pain. Her leg was definitely broken. Deho could see where the bone had snapped. It wasn't bleeding much, though. Feltari blood was different from human blood. Thicker, it clotted faster. This is going to hurt, Deho warned. I need to straighten it before I can wrap it. I understand, Lena said. Her voice was steady, but he could hear the fear underneath. Deho worked as gently as he could. He had basic medical training like all colony engineers, enough to handle emergencies until real help arrived. He straightened the leg and Lena made a sharp clicking sound. Her whole body went rigid, but she didn't scream. You're tougher than you look, Deho said as he wrapped the leg with bandages and a splint made from a piece of his toolbox. Feltari feel pain just like humans, Lena said through clenched mandibles. We just don't show it the same way. When he finished, Deho sat back and looked at his work. It wasn't perfect, but it would keep the bone stable. Lena would need real medical care soon, though. Her carapace was cracked in places, and those wounds could get infected. Thank you, Lena said softly. You have kind hands for a human. Deho smiled. Is that a compliment? Yes, my people say humans are clumsy, big and loud and careless. But your hands are gentle. Well, don't spread that around, Deho said. I have a reputation to maintain. Lena made that clicking laugh again. It was starting to sound less strange to Deho. Almost nice. He pulled out his phone even though he knew it was pointless. No signal. The screen was cracked too. It must have broken when he rappelled down. Great. There went his only way to call for help. We're really stuck, aren't we? Lena asked. For now, Deho said. He tried to sound confident. But people will notice I'm missing. My company tracks all our trucks. When I don't report back tonight, they'll send someone to look for me. How long will that take? Deho thought about it. Maybe 12 hours, maybe 24. Depends on how fast they move. Lena was quiet for a moment. That's a long time to wait. Yeah. Deho looked up at the rope hanging above them. But we've got water, food, and each other. We'll be fine. He said it with more confidence than he felt. The truth was he had no idea if they would be fine. The well was deep, cold, and dark. Even if rescue came, getting them both out would be difficult. And there was always the chance that nobody would find them at all. But Deho pushed those thoughts away. Worrying wouldn't help. He needed to focus on keeping Lena alive and finding a way out. "Tell me about yourself," he said. "What were you doing out here alone?" Lena shifted her position, trying to get comfortable. "I work for the Diplomatic Service. I was traveling to Westport to help negotiate a treaty, agricultural trade between humans and Veltari. It's important work. And the bandits attacked you?" "Yes, they wanted my transport vehicle. It was expensive. When I refused to give them the access codes, they became violent. They threw me down here and left me. They said nobody would find me in time." Deho felt anger rising in his chest. "I'm sorry that happened to you. Not all humans are like that." "I know," Lena said. "You proved that when you jumped down here. No Veltari would have done what you did." "Really? None of them?" "No, we are taught from birth to think logically, to calculate risk and benefit. Jumping into a well to save a stranger has no logical benefit. You trapped yourself to help me. That makes no sense to my people." Deho considered this. "I guess humans are just wired differently. We don't always think about logic. Sometimes we just feel what's right." "Feelings," Lena said the word like it was foreign. "My people have feelings too, but we don't let them control our actions. We think first, always. And what would a Veltari have done in my situation? Gone for help, even if it meant I would die before they returned. One death is better than two deaths." "That's logical." Deho shook his head. "That's cold." "It's survival," Lena said. But her voice was soft, almost sad. "We have survived for thousands of years by being logical. But sometimes I wonder if we've lost something important along the way." They sat in silence for a while. Deho gave Lena more water and a protein bar. She ate it slowly, making small clicking sounds as she chewed. The temperature was dropping. Deho could feel it. He pulled out the thermal blanket and draped it over both of them. "We should share body heat," he said. "It's going to get colder." Lena hesitated, then nodded. She moved closer to him. Her carapace was hard and smooth but warm. Warmer than he expected. They sat together under the blanket, sharing the small amount of heat their bodies produced. "This is strange," Lena said. "Sitting with a human like this. We are so different." "Yeah, but we're both stuck in the same hole," Deho said. "That makes us the same where it counts." Hours passed. Deho tried to stay awake, but exhaustion was pulling at him. He had been working all day before this. His body was tired. His mind was tired, but he fought against sleep. He needed to stay alert in case something happened. Lena spoke quietly beside him. "Deho? Yeah? Why did you really jump down here?" "Tell me the truth." Deho thought about it. "Really thought about it. Because I heard you crying," he said finally. "And I couldn't walk away from that. My mom always told me that when someone needs help, you help them. No questions, no conditions. You just help. That's what makes us human." "Your mother sounds wise." "She was. She died a few years ago. Mining accident. I'm sorry." "Thanks." Deho felt a lump in his throat. He hadn't talked about his mother in a long time. "She would have liked you, I think. She always said that kindness crosses all boundaries, even species." Lena was quiet for a long moment. "I think I would have liked her too." The night grew darker. The circle of sky above them faded from blue to black to star-filled darkness. Deho pointed out constellations to Lena, telling her the human names for them. She told him the Veltari names, which were long and musical and hard to pronounce. They talked about their lives. Lena described her home city, a place of tall spires and underground gardens. Deho talked about Earth, the planet he had left 10 years ago to come to New Haven. He told her about oceans and forests, things that didn't exist on this dry colony world. "Do you miss it?" Lena asked. "Earth?" "Sometimes," Deho admitted. "But New Haven is home now. It's not perfect, but it's mine." "That's how I feel about this planet too," Lena said. "We came here as refugees, you know. Our home world was dying. Humans let us settle here, gave us land and trade rights. Your people saved mine." "I didn't know that." "Most humans don't. We don't talk about it much. Pride, I suppose. But it's true. Without human generosity, the Veltari would be extinct." Deho felt a strange warmth in his chest. "Well, now we're even. You helped us by being good neighbors. I'm helping you by being stupid enough to jump in a well. Lena laughed. That clicking musical sound. You're not stupid, Daeho. You're brave. There's a difference. Tell that to my boss when he finds out what I did. They both laughed at that, and for a moment, sitting in the cold darkness at the bottom of a well, things didn't seem so bad. They had each other. They had hope. And sometimes that was enough. Morning came slowly to the bottom of the well. A thin circle of light appeared far above them, growing brighter as the sun rose. Daeho woke up stiff and cold. His back ached from sleeping against the hard stone wall. Next to him, Lena was still asleep, her breathing slow and steady. He moved carefully, trying not to wake her. She needed rest. Her body was healing from the injuries. Daeho stood up and stretched, looking around their prison in the daylight. The well was exactly as terrible as he remembered. Smooth walls, no handholds, no obvious way out. But there was something he hadn't noticed last night. In one corner, water was seeping through cracks in the stone. It pooled at the bottom, clear and clean. An underground spring. That was good news. Very good news. They wouldn't die of thirst. Daeho knelt down and tasted the water. Cold and fresh, perfect. He filled his water bottle and drank deeply. Then he refilled it for Lena. Behind him, Lena stirred. You're still here, she said softly. Where else would I go? Daeho asked with a smile. I thought maybe I dreamed you. A human jumping into a well to save me. It seems too strange to be real. Well, I'm real. And we're still stuck. But look, we have water. This spring will keep us alive as long as we need. Lena sat up, wincing as she moved her broken leg. How long do you think that will be? Daeho checked his watch. It had survived the fall better than his phone. It's been about 14 hours since I went missing. My company should be looking for me soon. They'll track my truck, find it parked out here, and start searching. And if they don't find us, they will. We just have to be patient. But patience was hard. The hours crawled by. Daeho spent the time exploring every inch of the well, looking for any weakness in the walls, any crack big enough to use as a handhold. He found nothing. The stone was worn smooth by centuries of water. Lena watched him work. You don't give up easily, do you? Never learned how, Daeho said. He sat down next to her, breathing hard from the effort. My dad was a builder. He always said that every problem has a solution. You just have to look hard enough. And if there is no solution, then you make one. Lena tilted her head, a Veltari gesture of curiosity. You really believe that? I have to. Otherwise, what's the point? They shared the last of the protein bars for lunch. Daeho rationed them carefully. He had 4 bars total. If they stretched it, that was 2 days of food. Maybe 3 if they were careful. The water would last forever, but food was limited. Tell me more about your people, Daeho said. I don't know much about Veltari culture. Lena seemed happy to talk. It passed the time and kept their minds off the situation. We are an old species, she said. Much older than humans. We have existed for 50,000 years, maybe more. Our civilization has risen and fallen many times. 50,000 years, Daeho whispered. Humans have only been civilized for maybe 10,000. You are young, Lena agreed. But youth has advantages. Humans are adaptable. You change quickly. You try new things. My people are stuck in our ways. We do things the same way we have always done them. Is that why you don't take risks? Partly. But also because we have seen what happens when we take risks. We have lost whole planets to bad decisions. Billions of lives. So now we calculate everything. We take no chances. Daeho thought about this. But doesn't that make life boring? Lena laughed. Yes, very boring. Sometimes I envy humans. You live with such passion, such fire. Even when it's stupid, it's beautiful. Like jumping into wells? Exactly like that. They talked for hours. Lena told stories about Veltari history. Wars fought 1,000 years ago. Heroes and villains and everything in between. Daeho listened, fascinated. He had never thought of aliens as having such rich histories. In his mind, they were always just aliens. But Lena was showing him a whole universe of culture and tradition. In return, Daeho told her about human history. The good and the bad. The wars and the peace. The art and the science. Lena listened with those big dark eyes, asking questions, wanting to understand. Humans are strange, she said at one point. You fight each other constantly, but you also love each other fiercely. You destroy and create in the same breath. I don't understand it. Most of the time, neither do we. Deho admitted. We're complicated. We make mistakes, but we try to do better. That's all anyone can do, right? Night came again. Their second night in the well. Deho was starting to worry. His company should have found his truck by now. They should be searching. Where were they? He didn't say anything to Lena. No point in making her more anxious. But he could see in her eyes that she was thinking the same thing. They huddled together under the thermal blanket again. The temperature dropped fast after sunset. Deho could see his breath in the flashlight beam. Deho? Lena said quietly. Yeah? If we die down here, I want you to know something. You showed me that humans are more than I thought. You are brave and kind and foolish in the best possible way. I will be honored to die beside you. Deho felt his throat tighten. We're not going to die. I promise you that. You can't promise that. Watch me. He said it with such confidence that Lena actually seemed to believe him. Or maybe she just wanted to believe him. Either way, it helped. Deho spent the next few hours thinking. There had to be a way out. He had his hammer and metal spike. He had rope. He had determination. What else did he need? An idea started forming in his mind. It was crazy. Probably impossible. But it was the only chance they had. Lena, he said, how strong are you? I mean physically. Stronger than I look, she said. Why? Because I have an idea. It's going to take both of us working together, and it's going to take days, maybe a week. But I think we can climb out of here. Lena sat up straighter. How? Deho pointed to the wall. We make our own handholds. I use my hammer and spike to carve steps into the stone. Small ones, just big enough for hands and feet. We work our way up bit by bit. That's 40 meters of stone, Lena said. And you only have one hammer. I know. Like I said, it'll take time. But we have time. And we have water. We can do this. Lena looked at the wall, then back at Deho. You're serious. Completely. It's insane. Probably. Lena was quiet for a long moment. Then she clicked her mandibles together. A sound Deho was learning meant determination. Then let's be insane together. Deho grinned. That's the spirit. They started planning. Deho would do the actual carving, since he had the strength for it. Lena, despite her broken leg, would help by testing each step, making sure it was solid. They would work in shifts to save energy, and they would ration their food carefully, making it last as long as possible. It was a desperate plan, a long shot at best, but it was better than sitting and waiting to be rescued. It gave them purpose. It gave them hope. And sometimes hope was the most powerful tool of all. Deho stood up and walked to the wall. He raised his hammer and spike. Okay, he said. Let's get out of here. He struck the stone. The sound echoed through the well. Again and again. Each strike was a promise. A refusal to give up. A declaration that they would survive. Lena watched him work, and in her eyes, Deho could see something new. Not just gratitude. Not just friendship. But respect. Deep and genuine respect. You humans, she said softly. You really are something special. Deho paused, wiping sweat from his forehead. Yeah, he said with a tired smile. We really are. 2 days passed. 2 days of endless hammering. Deho's hands were blistered and bleeding. His shoulders ached. Every muscle in his body screamed for rest. But he didn't stop. He couldn't stop. He had carved 20 steps into the wall. 20 small notches, barely big enough for his fingers and toes. But they held his weight. That was what mattered. Each step brought them closer to freedom. Lena helped as much as she could. She couldn't climb, not with her broken leg, but she organized their supplies. She rationed the food with mathematical precision. She kept Deho's spirits up when exhaustion threatened to defeat him. You need to rest, she said on the third morning. You've been working for 6 hours straight. I'm fine, Deho said, but his voice was hoarse. His hands shook as he raised the hammer. You're not fine. You're destroying yourself. Rest for 1 hour, please. Deho wanted to argue. But his body wouldn't let him. He sat down heavily and the hammer fell from his grip. Lena moved next to him and handed him water. Drink, she ordered. He drank. The cold water felt like heaven on his throat. You're stubborn, Lena said. Even for a human. Runs in the family, Deho said with a weak smile. They sat together in silence. The well had become their whole world. Deho could barely remember what the sky looked like anymore. The circle of light above seemed impossibly far away. We're at 5 meters, Lena said. Only 35 more to go. Don't, Deho said. Don't think about the distance. Just think about the next step. That's all. One step at a time. Is that how humans think? One step at a time? It's how we survive, Deho said. We don't look at the mountain. We look at the path. And we keep walking. Lena made a thoughtful clicking sound. We could learn from that. My people, we see the whole mountain. Every problem, every obstacle. It paralyzes us sometimes. Yeah, well, sometimes being too smart is a problem, Deho said. He stood up, picking up his hammer again. Sometimes you just need to be dumb enough to try. He went back to work. Strike after strike. The sound of metal on stone became a rhythm, a heartbeat. Each hit was a promise that they would make it out. By the fourth day, they had reached 10 meters, a quarter of the way up. Deho's hands were wrapped in strips torn from his shirt. The blisters had turned to calluses. His body was adapting, getting stronger. The food was almost gone. They had one protein bar left, split between them. It would have to last another day, maybe two. After that, they would be living on water alone. We should save it, Lena said, looking at the half bar in her hand. You need the energy to climb. We share it, Deho said firmly. We're in this together. Remember? Lena looked at him for a long moment. Then she nodded and ate her half. That night, Deho climbed the steps he had carved. It was the first real test. Could they actually hold his weight for a sustained climb? He went slowly, carefully, testing each step before putting his full weight on it. At 5 meters, he looked down. Lena was watching him, her face tilted up. Even in the dim light, he could see the hope in her eyes. He climbed higher. 8 meters. 10 meters. The steps held. They actually held. It's working. He shouted down. Lena, it's working. Her clicking laugh echoed up to him. Of course it's working. You built them. Deho climbed back down, his heart pounding with excitement. For the first time since jumping into the well, he truly believed they would make it out. But his celebration was short-lived. The next day, disaster struck. Deho was working on a step at 12 meters when his spike slipped. The metal skittered across the stone and fell. He grabbed for it, overbalanced, and suddenly he was falling too. Time seemed to slow down. Deho saw the bottom rushing up to meet him. Saw Lena's eyes go wide with horror, saw his own death coming. Then something grabbed him. 4 arms, strong despite their slender appearance, wrapped around his body. Lena had caught him. Somehow, with a broken leg, she had moved fast enough to catch him. They both crashed to the ground. Deho on top of Lena. The impact drove the air from both their lungs. For a moment, neither could move. Are you okay? Lena gasped. Deho rolled off her, checking himself. Bruised but nothing broken. Yeah, I'm okay. But your leg? Lena's face was twisted in pain. I think I made it worse. But you're alive. That's what matters. Deho felt tears in his eyes. Actual tears. You saved me. You could have let me fall. Would have been logical. One less mouth to feed. Logic can go to hell, Lena said through gritted mandibles. You jumped into a well for me. I can catch you when you fall. That's what friends do. Deho helped her sit up. Her leg splint had come loose. He fixed it, being as gentle as possible. Lena didn't complain, but he could see the pain in every line of her body. I'm sorry, he said. Don't be. We're even now. That moment changed something between them. Before, Deho had been the rescuer and Lena the rescued. Now they were truly equal. Both willing to risk everything for the other. Both choosing friendship over logic. The next 2 days were the hardest. Deho worked through exhaustion and hunger. His body was running on pure determination. They were out of food. The water kept them alive, but barely. At 15 meters, Deho found something. A horizontal crack in the wall, bigger than the others. He put his hand inside and felt air moving. A tunnel or a shaft, something. Lena, he called down. There's an opening here. He worked frantically, widening the crack with his hammer. The stone was softer here, easier to break. After an hour, the opening was big enough to crawl through. Deho tied the rope around his waist and crawled inside. The tunnel was narrow and dark. He had to pull himself forward on his elbows. The walls pressed in on both sides. But he kept going. After 10 meters, the tunnel opened up. Deho found himself in a larger space, an old maintenance shaft by the look of it. The miners must have built it decades ago, and at the far end he could see light, real light, sunlight. His heart soared. Lena, I found a way out! He crawled back to the well and looked down. There's a tunnel up here. It leads to the surface. We made it. Lena looked up at him, and even from this distance he could see the joy on her face. Then come get me, you wonderful crazy human. Getting Lena up 15 meters with a broken leg was the hardest thing Deho had ever done. He lowered the rope. She tied it around herself. Then, using the steps he had carved and pulling on the rope, she climbed. Slowly, painfully, but she climbed. Deho pulled from above, taking as much of her weight as he could. His arms burned. His back screamed. But he didn't stop. Not until Lena's hand appeared over the edge of the tunnel opening. Not until he grabbed that hand and pulled her up beside him. They lay there in the tunnel, gasping for breath, covered in sweat and dirt and blood. But they were alive. And they were moving toward freedom. Ready? Deho asked. Ready, Lena said. Together they crawled toward the light. The sunlight was blinding. After 6 days in the darkness of the well, the brightness hurt Deho's eyes. He crawled out of the tunnel opening and collapsed on the ground. Real ground, solid earth under the open sky. Lena crawled out beside him. They lay there for a long time, just breathing. Just being alive, we did it, Deho whispered. We actually did it. You did it, Lena corrected. I just came along for the ride. Deho laughed. It turned into a cough. His throat was raw, his body was wrecked, but he was laughing. We both did it, together. They heard voices then, shouting, the sound of engines. Deho sat up and saw vehicles approaching. Company trucks. Search and rescue teams. They had been looking for him after all. A man jumped out of the first truck and ran toward them. Deho, my God, we've been searching for 3 days. Where have you been? In a well, Deho said simply. Long story. The medics came quickly. They put Lena on a stretcher and started treating her leg. They checked Deho for injuries, wrapping his hands and giving him water and food. Real food. Deho had never tasted anything so good. His supervisor, a gruff man named Tai-Min, stood over him with his arms crossed. You jumped into a well. To save an alien. Do you have any idea how stupid that was? Yeah, Deho said. Pretty stupid. You could have died. But I didn't. Tai-Min stared at him for a long moment. Then his face softened. You're either the bravest man I know or the dumbest. I haven't decided which. Can't it be both? Deho asked. Tai-Min actually smiled. Yeah, I guess it can. They took Deho and Lena to the hospital in Westport. The doctors were amazed that Lena had survived 6 days with a broken leg and no food. They were even more amazed that Deho had jumped in after her. That's the most human thing I've ever heard, one doctor said. Completely illogical and completely beautiful. Lena was in surgery for 8 hours. They fixed her leg and repaired the cracks in her carapace. Deho waited outside the whole time, refusing to leave until he knew she was okay. When she finally woke up, he was sitting by her bed. Hey, he said softly. How do you feel? Like I fell in a well, Lena said. Her voice was weak but clear. Oh, wait. I did fall in a well, Deho grinned. And lived to tell about it. Thanks to you. Thanks to us, Deho corrected. The story spread quickly. A human engineer who jumped into a well to save an alien. It was on the news within hours. By the next day, everyone on New Haven knew about it. By the week's end, the story had reached Earth and the Veltari home colonies. Deho hated the attention. He didn't think he had done anything special. Anyone would have done the same thing, he insisted. But people didn't believe him. To them, he was a hero. The Veltari Diplomatic Council sent a delegation to meet him. High-ranking officials who had traveled from the capital city. They stood in his hospital room, these important aliens, and bowed to him. You have shown us something we had forgotten, the lead diplomat said. Her name was Hana, and her carapace was deep purple with age. That sometimes logic is not enough. That compassion has its own wisdom. You risked everything for one of our people. The Veltari do not forget such things. I just did what was right, Deho said, uncomfortable with all the formal language. Exactly, Hana said. You did what was right, not what was logical. You have reminded us that these are not always the same thing. The agricultural treaty that Lena had been traveling to negotiate was signed the following week, but it was different now. The Veltari added new clauses. Cooperation agreements, cultural exchange programs, emergency assistance protocols. They wanted to learn from humans. To understand this strange species that valued life over logic, Deho was offered medals and commendations. He refused them all. I don't need medals, he said. I have a friend. That's enough, and he meant it. Lena recovered over the next month. Her leg healed. Her carapace repaired itself. And through it all, Daeho visited her every day. They talked for hours just like they had in the well. But now they had sunlight and proper food and the comfort of knowing they were safe. "What will you do now?" Daeho asked her one day. "Go back to your diplomatic work?" "Actually," Lena said, "I've requested a transfer. I'm going to stay in this region. Work on the joint infrastructure projects between humans and Veltari." Daeho's face lit up. "Really? Really? I figure if I'm going to learn about human compassion, I should learn from the best teacher." "I'm not a teacher." "Yes, you are. You taught me that being alive means more than just surviving. It means connecting with others, risking yourself for others. You showed me what my people have been missing." Daeho felt his throat tighten with emotion. "You showed me something too. That courage isn't about being fearless. It's about being afraid and doing the right thing anyway. You climbed 15 meters on a broken leg. That's the bravest thing I've ever seen." They smiled at each other, these two beings from different worlds. And in that smile was understanding, friendship, something deeper than words could express. 3 months later, Daeho and Lena stood at the edge of the old well. They had come back to the place where it all began. But it looked different now. The well had been filled in and covered. A memorial had been built on the site. A simple stone marker with words in both human and Veltari languages. Here, a human and a Veltari learned that kindness knows no species, that compassion transcends logic, that when someone cries for help, the measure of civilization is found in who answers the call. Below that, 2 names, Daeho and Lena. "They made us heroes," Lena said, reading the inscription. "We're not heroes," Daeho said. "We're just 2 people who survived together." Maybe that's what heroism is. Not doing something impossible, but doing something necessary. You jumped into a well because I needed help. That's heroism in its purest form. Daeho looked at the memorial, then at Lena. "You know what I think? I think the real heroism was what came after. You changed your whole career to learn about human culture. You pushed your people to be more open, more compassionate. That takes more courage than jumping in a well." "We both changed," Lena said. "The well changed both of us." They stood there in silence, remembering those 6 dark days. The fear, the pain, the hope, and through it all, the growing friendship that had saved them both. "Thank you," Lena said softly. "For jumping in, for not leaving me to die alone in the dark." "Thank you for catching me when I fell," Daeho replied, "for showing me that friendship can bridge any gap." Around them, the frontier land stretched out under the sun. In the distance, they could see both human and Veltari settlements. 2 species living side by side, learning from each other, growing together. All because one human heard someone crying for help and did the simplest, most human thing possible. He helped. "Come on," Daeho said, putting his hand on Lena's shoulder. "We have work to do. Those irrigation systems won't fix themselves." Lena clicked her mandibles in amusement. "Always working. Very human of you." "Yeah, well, you're starting to sound pretty human yourself." They walked away from the memorial together, a human and an alien, an engineer and a diplomat. 2 friends who had learned that the space between different worlds is measured not in distance but in understanding, and that sometimes all it takes to cross that space is one person willing to jump into the darkness. Behind them, the memorial stood silent in the sun, a reminder of the day the universe got a little bit smaller and a little bit kinder. The story would be told for generations, on human worlds and Veltari worlds alike, the story of the woman in the well and the man who jumped in to save her. Some would say it was foolish. Others would say it was noble. But everyone agreed on one thing. It was human. In the best possible way, and in a universe that often felt cold and logical and harsh, that warmth of human compassion burned bright, a light in the darkness, a rope lowered into the depths, a hand reaching out to pull someone up. That was what it meant to be human. To see someone suffering and think not what do I gain, but what can I give? To jump into wells, both literal and metaphorical, because someone needs help. Daeho didn't know it yet, but his story would inspire millions. Humans would continue to be humans, reckless, emotional, compassionate to the point of foolishness. And other species would watch and wonder and slowly begin to understand. Sometimes the most powerful force in the universe isn't strength or intelligence or technology. Sometimes it's just one person who hears someone crying in the dark and says, "Hold on, I'm coming." That's humanity. That's the legacy. That's the light we bring to the stars. one well at a time.